Like
Maybe
a
Agnes and her have a romance and it's kind of like a cougar
no.
situation. But
Listen, you
maybe.
cannot give me a giant bone dog and then tell me no one is romancing the giant bone wolf. Jesus, William, get it together. Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Textual Tension. It's me, your host, Maria, and my ruggedly handsome co-host, William.
Hey guys, rugged and handsome today. And today we're doing something a little bit different. Usually we're a book review podcast, as you guys well know. But every once in a while, and by every once in a while I mean twice last year and never since, we like to do rewrites of books that we felt like had a lot of promise, but weren't quite able to execute on that promise. Specifically, we did the Savior books because those are trash fires, but we thought had like some elements that could have worked. And in this case, we're doing one of Nettle and Bone. Not because it was bad exactly. It's because there's like a big shift in tone from the first half to the second half. And we're curious to see if we could continue what the first had going in terms of tone and atmosphere, and what that would have looked like without its like swerve into like genre deconstruction.
Yeah. And we're doing this, I think, partially as creative exercise, partially because there's such a big tone shift. But please note, like, I really enjoyed the second half of the book. Like there are those of us who really did. Some people didn't like it as much as the first half. I think I have to point this way. That guy. But like I did. And overall I think we enjoyed the book, and it was, compared to a lot of the other ones we've read lately, it was an enjoyable book.
Very true. But I do tend to think of it as two different books in my head. Like I was trying to remember one of the books and I was like, okay, and then what happened? And I was like, oh, wait, yeah, that was Nettle and Bone. Something totally weird happened towards the end. So again, and the author is very talented. We just were kind of curious. And the other thing is our patrons had a lot of like suggestions and we were really interested in a rewrite video. So unfortunately, we did Nettle and Bone about a month ago. So I've forgotten most of it. And most of my thoughts right now are about Little Thieves. But hopefully we can remember what was going on.
I got you. I still remember. Even though I also was really preoccupied with Little Thieves, I was like, I literally spent like 2 hours yesterday being like, how would I rewrite that book? And then I was like, that is not the book we are doing.
If you guys would like to see more rewrite live streams or just videos in general, leave a comment down below.
We have to do Cyborg Tinker at some point.
We're going to. I have it scheduled for, I think, April. Yeah, April. The rewrite videos are nice because they give us a chance to read longer books or series as one video. And then also I watched a part of our video for it like 2 days ago. So I'm somewhat remembered. I don't remember what the main character's name is, but we should be able to get there. Mara. Oh, yeah. No, I remember. For some reason, I kept thinking it was Maya. I'm like, it's not Asian. And already, by the way, we have had some great puns in the Discord. Ceridian sounds like UTT has a bone to pick with this story. Very true. It's time to put the pedal to the nettle. I may name this video that. So remember, I always appreciate the Cyborg Taylor. Oh, not bad. Okay, so I figured the way we'll do this, if Maria is in agreement, is we will kind of write down the plot points that happened in the first half that we want to keep. And then at the point where basically the main character goes back to the Bone Witch, that's when we'll start changing things. Do you want to give a very short summary of what the first half of the book was, Maria?
Yes. So the first half of the book is half flashback into what has the character's history that led up to this point. And then the main actual plot is her doing a couple different tasks for the Bone Witch. It starts with her going into like spooky Badlands to create a bone dog, and she's in the process. The book starts with her creating like wiring some bones together, and then it kind of flashes back to her talking with the Bone Witch, telling her she had to make like an owl cloak it was a cloak out of nettle and owl cloth, I think is what it was called. And that was a very harrowing process. And so she does those two tasks. While you're getting her doing those two tasks, which, like I said, do kind of come out of order, you're getting flashback into her history. Her family is from a very small little baby kingdom that everybody wants a piece of. Her mother marries off her older sister to this northern kingdom. Her older sister is killed in the northern, or dies mysteriously in the northern kingdom. Then her second oldest sister gets married off to the prince of the northern kingdom. And not great stuff is happening. Our main character, who is a very emotional child, eventually gets sent off to a nunnery of Our Lady of Grackles. She becomes a little nun. And all of this is kind of being woven with her completing the first two tasks of the Bone Witch, which is building the bone dog and her creating the cloak. And then a deep thing that is a current, especially in the first chapter, is that in this bad, dark, spooky Badlands, there are zombie people. There is a curse where, like, people are starving, but if they eat the wrong thing, they turn into zombies. So they're getting cursed for being hungry and eating what is available. And it starts the book with a real sinister, shit's wild vibe. And there's the idea that this dark, spooky Badlands is creeping forward inch by inch every year, coming towards her kingdom. And then it's just left. We never return here. Why are the Badlands there? Why are they moving? Can you stop them? Is there a second book?
All questions that we hope to answer in this rewrite. Okay, so guys, ready for this very cool technology I have? It is called split screen. Also, bear in mind that when it says William, that's Maria typing, and when I'm typing, it doesn't say anything because Hispanic erasure. Okay. Yeah, think about it. Hispanic erasure by Google, of all people.
Is Katie unresolved then?
Katie should join us for the next one. Hopefully we do. Because Katie's actually really good at that stuff. I used to run all my story ideas past her before she got like busy and married. Okay, this is taking too long. What was I thinking of? What was I talking about? Right. Okay, so Mara builds a bone dog, remembers things. It is atmospheric. Takes place in blighted land. Apparently cannibal. Meets two skinny people who may or may not have eaten someone. Eating someone makes you less of a person.
Human.
But diet in area is limited.
Heckin' starvation. Hi,
Hey, Valerie.
Welcome.
I'm here. Oh, wow. You guys are nearly our size now on screen. Unfair. Unfair.
I mean, are you doing this timeline in order that it happens or order that it happens in the book?
So we're going to go present basically starts there. And then we're going to go through it'll intercut between the two as it did in the book, I think is smart. So yeah. I'm just putting it down very quickly. Okay. Diet in areas.
And remember, she
back to
she builds the bone dog and the bone dog doesn't work, and then like a while later it just pops out of the blighted lands and it's like, hi mama.
I think the cannibalism should be more explicit. I think the cannibalism is an element that can be built over time. I like the way it's introduced, and then I think it can kind of be moved forward. Mara has the impression the blighted land is growing, is the impression I got from it. Yeah.
It's just a known fact that it grows a little bit every year.
Celia says, I need to at least see them eat some juicy meat. Don't tease, just show me the true gore. Channeling your Attack on Titan vibes. I do like that. Bone Dog worked. He just ran away. That is pretty funny. So one thing I think is that one thing I would change, honestly, if I had been writing this story from the beginning as my thing, I probably would not have Bone Dog be explicitly a bone dog. I would have it be a little bit more plausibly deniable as magic versus just literally bones animating somehow. Like, I don't know how I would have done it. I might just not have.
I disagree. I love it.
But I understand that people love Bone Dog and he's a fan favorite, and we need to keep him part of it.
Yes.
Okay, so we want to go into the past then. And in the past, we have Mara's sister marries Prince comes back dead. Mara's other sister.
What was her other sister's
Goes
name?
to marry him. Marry same prince. I actually don't remember. Mara goes to
The first one had a D name. I think the other one had an L name.
Mara goes to convent for Lady of Grakals. Oh yeah, Damia and Kanya. I liked those names. Yes. Kanya was such a bitch. Mara visits Kanya. Kanya tells her they will marry her to Prince if she dies.
She learns about childbearing. Her sister keeps having babies. And then she decides.
And back to Kanya.
When baby dies.
Kanya tells her about Prince.
Heckin' abuse.
About the heckin' abuse. Did you see the comment the other day talking about how much?
Listen, people either love it or they hate it, and I refuse to modify my natural speaking for anyone. Can we make the cannibals helpful? Like just nice cannibal people? It will be fun. Listen, I'm actually super okay with that. Like cannibals, they're like having a scale of cannibalism. Like the more you eat, the worse you get, and the more you become actual. But then there's a group of people who are like very like they did it once, so they have some of the tendencies, but they're still really nice and helpful. I love that as an idea.
So there was actually, funnily enough, some concept art I once saw, which is like, usually like evil people carry like dead people on them and like a flayed skin of a man over them. And it was a game called Overgrowth, where they were doing concept art of what the mouse people in that world would be like. And actually they would just carry like dead parts of their relatives on them, but it wasn't like a gross, creepy thing. It was like, oh, your relatives are still helpful even in death. Like, oh, this is my grandpa, kind of like it was recontextualizing it, not as creepy and bad, but it's just like, oh, we're carrying on with our ancestors and they're useful. So like, yeah, they don't necessarily need to be bad. It's more of when you hunger for human flesh, I think that cannibals become bad versus just like we're stuck in the mountains, we're an Argentinian soccer team and we need food. That it becomes like, like that's fine. But when we're like human flesh, I actually had an idea for a story that I told Maria about and that I'll write someday. About like a virus that makes, or not a virus, but it was in this setting, when you eat human flesh, each time you become less and less human. And so, but it also makes you hunger for it, and also makes you kind of narcissistic and think you're like a better than them. And you start growing like extra limbs and becoming more animal-like. And like, that's cool. But again, you don't necessarily need to go down that full-on route with this. I also like the idea that the Blighted Lands are more of just, kind of a thin place, as they call it, a liminal place. Not necessarily that it's just cannibalism, but like cannibalism is one of the things that that happens here for some reason, because the world is like thinner. By the way, guys, I think, are you petting? Oh no, there was one part in the Akatar video where you're talking very seriously, but just petting Marmalade. Is that Marmalade or Pumpkin?
No, this one's Pumpkin. She's having a day. She's so happy. They weirdly love when I'm recording because I'm just sitting in one place and I will just
That's actually really funny. Celia says cannibalism can be religious too. Eat the strength of someone's heart or something like that. Yeah, what is it? There's some tribes in somewhere who like you over there they're cannibals, but it's okay, they're cool. Yeah. Where you like burn the person up and then eat their ashes or whatever. It causes a prion disease, which is usually why cannibalism is considered taboo. Cannibalism is pretty much the last boundary. Once people eat people, the entire world is hostile to you. Yeah, that's true as kind of a thing too. The ninth reign is about elves who sustained themselves on sap, but then the tree dried up, so they began to drink human blood and were then afflicted with a terrible sickness because of it. Miss Ali Snow says, I remember an X-Files episode where people were eating and getting some terrible brain disease. Yeah, it's a prion disease because when you eat, hilariously, my mom read us an article about this when I was 7 or 8. It has to do with the prions in your brain. When you're eating them of someone else, eventually they'll start causing you to have problems.
So as long as you don't eat the brain, you shouldn't have that many health issues.
I don't really know if that's what it is or not. My mom's gonna get mad when she watches this and I forgot, because she's gonna remember, and then she's gonna Google.
From what I have heard about cannibalism, is it specifically the brain stuff? Like if you avoid the brain, you can get by.
So in general, if I was writing this on my own, would make cannibalism like a moral failing, a thing that makes you hunger more. Because I actually, as much as I like the realism in my settings, I like George R. R. Martin. I like things that are weird and creepy and like kind of otherworldly. But realistically speaking, there should probably be a spectrum of helpful cannibals to not helpful cannibals.
I like the idea that they set up in this world where the more you eat, the worse you get, and that it feels like a punishment for something unavoidable. Like people put in a shitty situation are being punished for trying to survive. And I think it would work better if we tied that into something that one of the main characters was suffering for. So if they have to make a choice of survival that they're then punished about, like, and you could use that guy from the other country whose name I forgot.
Fenris?
Him, yeah, Fenris could be someone where by a choice he makes to survive, he's looked down upon and punished. And so having it as a parallel, because I like the idea of that, and that people can't help the situation they were in. They made a choice in that moment that they probably wouldn't have made in a different moment, and now they are being punished for it. And also to see characters that are trying to do better despite partially going down that road, so the more helpful cannibals versus ones that were like, fuck it, I fully committed, baby. Like, I think that would be a really fascinating thing to play. And also because it makes the idea of setting up, because I'm still team Evil Prince has something to do with the darkness spreading.
Yeah, okay. So
I like the idea of the world being better, and then this guy fucking shit up.
Right. Okay. So I have a note on cannibalism. Let me do this slightly differently. These are going to be elements of the book. So cannibalism is on a spectrum. I'll put down here. It's taboo to people outside of blinded lands in the blighted and causes hungering for human flesh, but also just the only source of meat.
Yep.
Around. By the way, when I write these for myself, I tend to be a lot more atmospheric, but I'm picking up some of Maria's patois as I'm writing this.
Fantastic. Lindbergh says, I love the idea of desperate people doing what is the worst thing imaginable for a lot of people and then being cursed for it by some arrogant god. Love. Judo Shrew says, could cannibalism be used symbolically? Absolutely. That is 100% the vibe I'm going for. And then Valerie making the comment about Fenris and like having him go on a journey that mirrors the cannibals. And oh, he's so knightly. It might be a fun moral quandary for him. Absolutely. I love it. Lindbergh says, bad gods messing with people were a missed opportunity if you introduce it in chapter 2. Because she literally says it's the gods punishing people. And then it never goes anywhere. It is the wildest, man. Now that we're talking about this, I am once again flummoxed by the choices this author made at the start of the book.
They're just a little bit like, again, super dark and then not really played into again. All right, so other elements.
Ooh. Wait, Allie had a good idea. Maybe Varling's family curse spell, use of the godmother spills over into the world and somehow and causes the cannibalism outbreak. I like the idea of it being connected. Sila says, I like the idea of it being connected to religion too, like some eldritch horror having cursed the lands, then the people eat others and the curse is worsened. And especially because Mara is in a covenant, so she can have a more active role.
Interesting. That could work. I'm reading through this. Okay, so the other big element that I think we should introduce. Hold on. Okay. The other one is Prince causes blighted land. Because I thought that was like Maria was saying, I think that was just a big missed opportunity for. Like, I just thought that's what was going to happen, and it didn't. And then Prince causes blighted land. I also thought that the blighted land might, at some point, have been her kingdom. Like, it's already reached her kingdom. And
that's what I thought as well. Yeah. At the beginning, it definitely gave me post-apocalypse vibes.
Land is post-apocalypse of her kingdom. Because I think post-apocalypse Fairytale is just such a wonderful idea.
And so rarely ever utilized.
Mm-hmm. Is no, it's just first post-apocalypse of her kingdom. Prince causes blighted land. I think also I like the two free tasks thing from the Bone Witch.
Yes.
3 tasks. First is Nettle Cloak. Second is Bone Dog. Third is and I think that could be a good place to start the actual changes in the plot moving forward. Is she goes back to the Bone Witch with the Bone Dog maid, and then the big objective till the end of the book is whatever the third task is. Because I'm not really thinking of the Bone Witch as like a grumpy godmother type. I'm thinking of her as like an actual creepy bone, like the thing you think of when you say Bone Witch would be like what it is atmospherically.
I also think it would fit the tone more. Like, listen, I love the Bone Witch as a character, and her and Aunt Agnes were like, I love them as a pair. But again, it just feels like so. Actually, it's funny that you took it this way, because I thought it would have been interesting to rewrite this to make the second half, because I think the second half was really strong as well. So we are rewriting the second half to match the first half. The other way you could rewrite this book is to rewrite the first half to match the second half. But if we're committing to this one, then yes, creepy ass Bone Witch and an actual third task. I don't think the third task should be the big thing running for the last part of the book. I like the sort of, there is a little bit of political intriguing you can bring into this, I think, that would fit. But I'm not sure. I don't have that idea fully developed yet. So continuing. What is the third task, William? What are we doing? What does she have to do?
I did not have one, so I was just
Oh, great.
I was just saying that would be an interesting. The third task forms a backbone.
We've got some good ideas.
The rest of the book. To be so, I'm not sure actually how much to keep the whole godmother thing. I don't love it. I understand that that's sort of in the DNA of the book.
I like it when she's creepy. We don't have to uncreepy her. The godmother's fucking terrifying, and it also brings that classic fairy tale element, which I think, if we want to do a post-apocalyptic fairy tale retelling, we got to keep some fairy tale elements.
That's true.
You know, when you see the godmother the first time, and she's this like old, terrifying, powerful thing, keep that. Don't turn her into I've been cursed and I would like to die now, because it takes the fang. Now, granted, again, I loved it. I
actually did think it was kind of, again, I love Aunt Agnes. I actually enjoyed the second half, but
we just don't have to defang her. We can keep her as an evil force, maybe even just a mindless evil force. Like, she's been alive so long that she doesn't even register what is happening, almost like a mummy. And when she's needed, her body just animates into action, and she's literally just kept in like a tomb. I think that would be really cool. But there are some ideas. Celia says having it tied to the godmother spells mean that the magic comes at a price. I like magic being balanced like that. Valerie says, and maybe each time a baby is born and the curse is set, the blighted land spreads faster. That's good. I like that.
Sorry, which part?
Valerie says, and maybe each time a baby is born and the curse is set again, and the baby is blessed again, the blighted land spreads faster, which is actually great, because that takes it from being something that the prince is being another mustached evil villain, and just it's like this generationally spanning bad thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very cool. My original idea had been that my original impression had been that he did something like he set off some kind of like a bomb or something, and now he's king of the ashes or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought when we were reading it as well.
I think there's still a way to actually make that work, though. Let me right now, by the way, I keep doing that. Sorry. I know my face is prettier than Maria's. So, what was I gonna say? Oh, right. Okay. So basically, because right now all we're writing down really is elements that we like, and later we can find out how they kind of can weave together. This is how I weave into like a coherent plot. So Blighted Land is tied to babies' births. Each grows it.
Yeah, each new baptism.
Each baptism grows
What is this?
it. She's talking to her cat, guys.
Whole chunk of fur off of her. Let's keep it together.
Post-apocalyptic is so redundant. If you're going to use it because of the combination of the fairy tale, that what's the unique thing that can do that you can't in any other post-apocalypse?
The zombie.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That is a point. The reason I think we're committing to that is because that's what it feels like in the first half of the book, and our goal here is to make the first half of the book marry into the second half of the book. Because again, the other option is to make the first half so our goal is to make the second half reflect the first half. The other way you could rewrite this is to rewrite the first half to match the second half better. But we've committed to the first half because we wanted more zombies.
And also, I'm not super interested in rewriting the first half to be like the second half because everything has to be the most grimdark possible.
Please note, did Maria have a choice?
Pendulous hangs the dick, heavy weighs the crown, as I like to say. But yeah, that is actually a good thing to keep in mind as we keep writing is like, what specifically can the fairy tale elements add, and how can this be specifically a fairy tale apocalypse and not just like.
So, question here. Is the Blighted Lands her old kingdom, and then Vorling's current land is not blighted yet? Like, where are, because the question we have to answer is, what does it look like out of the Blighted Lands? How big is the Blighted Lands? Because again, our big problem on the first read through was that the Blighted Lands were in the beginning. They were terrifying and atmospheric and spoopy, and then they disappeared and we never visited them again because they were so far away from everything else that was happening in the book.
Okay, so the way I would write it, and we don't have to do this, but just my impression and what I think it would be interesting, an interesting direction to start in would be he did some kind of like magical explosion or curse thing, and like everything now is Blighted Lands except for like his tower. Like he's a king rising out of the dust. He is trying to remake the world in some way that isn't just like I want land or I want to conquer. Like he's doing something really weird and he doesn't care about what it costs to everything else or something like that. I don't know yet what that would be though. Do you have like a different way you're thinking of it?
So I like the idea of the Blighted Lands growing because of the curse, and like they have taken over her kingdom. So her kingdom is gone. It is now part of the Blighted Lands, but it is just slowly going north and south. Like it is just spreading out. So like the southern lands have been taken and it's coming towards Vorlig's lands. And I'd like the idea of him being so this just popped into my head. I like the idea of him being so manic and terrible because he knows the Blighted Lands are coming and he doesn't know how to stop it. So he is making decisions. He is actively trying to push further north, trying to he's going to war across the oceans. He is doing incredibly cruel things to try escape this thing that he cannot control. And that is what is motivating him to be a fucking butt face. And him not realizing that it is like every time a child is born and you baptize it, it is just spreading and spreading.
Okay, so one element I really like is when people are. So, okay, there's this book by, I forget her name. She's a big name author called Year of the Flood. But anyway, in this sci-fi world, they have prisoners compete in a thing called like paintball or something like that, which is like just a brutal death competition. And then they put these prisoners through it and then release them back into society. And then they can't understand why society keeps getting more violent and these people keep going back into the program. And I really like that reinforcement of like, we keep doing this thing and we don't understand why it's getting us worse and worse outcomes each time. And so I like that, especially if it's like a hypocritical thing. Like,
yep.
I don't know, he wants to purify people from eating people, but he's then making it worse each time.
Exactly.
So I do like that.
I love that as a motivation. And I like the idea of him trying to and like you said, fight the Blighted Lands, but not real, and like having and just being so disconnected from his history and the what is happening to not realize what is going on. Lindbergh said that's a believable motivation for Vorlang. He needs some development, which I agree. And I also like the idea of her home being gone. Like, I like the idea of at some point having a scene where she is just in the nunnery and it's just fucking gone.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. So Miss Allie Snows, no, Judo Shrew said, since we are going the angle of a curse that is connected to the blessings of the cannibalistic, could it be that the cannibalism is a natural solution? They are the only ones to end the blessing. Like it's a natural attempt to take back the magic that was stolen from them with the blessing. Okay, I love parts of this idea. Let me try to articulate it. Okay, so I love the idea that the godmothers are not really a natural part of the world, and that by forcing them to bless people and bringing in magic, it's causing a problem on the other side. Like there is a natural there's a natural like drain from the world, or it's create, or you know what it is like those curses are okay. So there's real world, right? And then there's strange liminal world. And by creating connections between the power of that strange liminal world and the person with the blessing that the godmother gives, it's creating like holes in the worlds between, and it's making the space like more liminal. Like literally, it's weakening the walls of our world. I really like that idea. I think that could be really cool because I always like magic as a weird liminal eldritch force.
I completely agree. And I love the idea of the godmothers as otherworldly creatures, not of this world. Which I think the Northern Kingdom godmother feels that way just because she's so hip and old. And so honestly, it would be really cool to include Agnes as a character, but have her like, instead of her being like the bastard offspring between a magical creature and an old king, have her just be a human shape, but exceptionally
or even, like,
not human.
Or even some kind of like tying of the two, in that there is a part of her that is human, but there is a part of her that's not, and the two are kind of always like, and that's one of the reasons she's sort of
and there are
weird at
moments
times.
where she's a little like almost amorphous, like shifting between two things, and then times when like if she's thinking about something, she almost seems to disappear as if she's fading into like the other realm and then coming back into this one. I like that. I like the idea of that a lot. That's maybe Agnes is a creature born of a cannibal. Celia said I would love reading this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys for your input. Fantastic.
Yeah, no, this is good stuff
here, guys.
Good
Great stuff.
That is some Dark Tower vibes. I've always wanted to read that, even though just because I love like the feeling of it. Gods, the world building in this rewrite is so amazing. I actually love world building. It's my favorite thing, and then I just never actually write the story. Okay, so what I wrote down is godmothers are eldritch creatures bound to this world, and naturally their blessings punch holes in the wall between real and unreal, creating the liminal blighted lands. One thing I would love is if there is a... Okay, so one of my problems with
what if Vorlang is capturing other godmothers?
Write that down because you have the power. Okay. And also write down the stuff about Vorlings. I know. I empowered you.
Yes.
Women can't do stuff, and then I empowered them. I'm such a feminist. Yeah, also write down the stuff about Vorling's motivation because that was interesting, and I didn't write that down while I pitched this. So one of the things I didn't like about Inception is that world functions, it's a dream world that they're going into, and yet it functions exactly on physical logic. So like the antigens try to get them out are like people with guns, whereas I thought it would be much cooler if it was like conceptual things that were coming after them, or non like Euclidean things, or something that operates off of not what we would see as physics in the common sense. So I would love if the way to bind grandmothers wasn't like, I don't know, a silver torque around their neck. It would be something like if you put a picture of what they really looked like, that would trap them in this world. Ooh, or something like that. Like one of those like Greek Orthodox like paintings, icons? Or maybe like one of those Slavic like cool I don't know. You know how Slavic people can like draw on trees and it looks really cool while they're doing like their hum singing. Like Will is rice and what is this? I mean, I'm as good looking as he is, but I don't do as many weird. I don't constantly talk to people like my voice is a lover's caress. Like Maria, do you want to go out for Taco Bell? Like that's not what I do all the time.
That is never how Will has propositioned me to go out for Taco Bell. It's been more like, what do you want to eat? And he goes, I could eat Taco Bell. And then we go eat Taco Bell.
And then Maria's like, you hobo, let's go to a real restaurant.
There's only been one time I've agreed to go to Taco Bell with this man, and it's after we spent a day redoing the downstairs.
You don't understand. In my family, going to Taco Bell is eating out. Like that's what we do for birthdays. Like we were legit kind of poor, or at least have poor sensibilities. And so when I started working at one company, like my friends were a little bit more bougie, and so they would go to like semi-bougie places, and I was like, oh yes, no, I too go to like.
Oh wait, Lindbergh clarified why you're resand. You give women the power to do basic things. You are resand.
Fair point.
We have the best patrons.
They're really funny.
Yeah, they're so great. Mwah. High class. Okay.
All right, so Maria has been writing things as William, which is just frankly, I will be suing for my likeness.
You made me log into the same account. You cannot complain.
I'm sorry. Did you wanna dox yourself this whole time? I'm okay with that.
You change my name in my account, like I did to yours.
Okay, well, do that next time.
See,
this is the problem with Maria. She uses 1 instead of 2. It's much more visually good if you have 2.
Okay. In order
to Will going to Taco Bell for family events is like when you grow up and realize that Red Lobster isn't the fine dining you thought it was. Yeah, exactly. It's very very much that vibe. Will is a classy hobo now. I am such a hobo. It's hilarious. Like that is such a perfect word for me. Okay, so Maria is writing, Vorling is collecting godmothers in an attempt to further protect his kingdom. There are godmothers locked away in the underground tomb palace.
I love the idea of having a scene where they're just walking through and there's just these eldritch old lady creatures and they just free all of them. And there's just like, wow. Okay.
That would be cool.
Sorry, I'm really into that.
I was gonna say, yeah. I've actually never seen Maria as gleeful as she is during these writing sessions. It's very funny. So I think it would be interesting to play into Vorling's like blessing of his children with godmothers as specifically a fairy tale obsession, or like he's trying to. I don't know. What are they trying to do in fairy tales that like can play off well with? He's trying to do one good thing. Or what he sees as a good...
Oh, sorry, I'm being attacked. Ow.
Data has no data.
Okay, listen. I need you to get off my hand. Ow, you little son of a bitch.
He's just looking at you like, I don't get it.
Get out of here. Oh, man. Thanks.
Yeah, it's funny. Data, I love Data.
Miss Allie Snow says, so I'm going to start from here. Lindbergh says they can free the godmothers and defeat the first king with the witch's help instead of just shouting at him a little.
I mean, that's a good point.
That would be a great, much better thing. Maybe Agnes gets snatched up by Vorling at some point too, and she leads a godmother revolt accompanied by a demon chicken. I want Disney
Cthulhu.
Okay, Genghis Khan's daughter who beat up. Oh man, that sounds amazing. Is that okay? And then cat is a drink.
Cat is a drink because she has a drinking game of or they have a drinking game of things that they have to drink for. Which, by the way, they would die of alcohol poisoning. I think it needs to be a bingo card. Especially
at this point in this new location, there are cats all the time. Like. Y'all gonna get fucked up. It is early in the morning for that. Okay, so I do like the idea of him like collecting witches.
I also like the idea of him collecting for Vorling trying to create like fairy tale princes kind of a thing. And like there is like he's like trying to not build an army, but he's trying to create like the kind of dashing fairy tale princes. And so that's why he keeps needing more godmothers to bless them. And in trying to create that shining ideal of chivalry, he is creating the blighted land.
Ooh, I like that.
I always
Now,
like when it's yeah.
are these his sons? Is he also trying to bless himself at this point? I guess they said you have to do it with babies.
Yeah, you have to do it with babies, I think, which is a more interesting, and I think it's also kind of creates an interesting dynamic between him and his sons in that like he is kind of trying to control them, and he's also maybe like
so
bitter that he couldn't be that perfect prince.
Does he have question we have to answer then. How many wives has he had? How many wives have died? And how many sons does he have at this point? And then what happens to his daughters?
I mean, if we want to go really creepy, his daughters become his wives, but that might be a bit much.
That's a bit much. That's a bit much. I was thinking maybe they're cast aside and like or maybe his daughters keep becoming new godmothers or like
maybe or something like that.
Like there's something there is something particularly like weird that is happening with the with his female children. Maybe they're coming out like for every blessing laid upon his sons, those girls are coming out cursed in a way that so now I'm putting too many things in the dungeons underneath. There can't be all the eldritch godmothers and the fucked up daughters of King.
Well, you know what would be kind of cool is like if one of his daughters was she like took care of the godmothers, that was her job, and so she's kind of picking up some godmother powers along the way.
I like that. I'd like us to use them.
Yeah, I think honestly, if I was to write this story, what I would do is actually I'd start with like he has I'd probably make the viewpoint character one of his sons who like has been blessed or whatever, and then have him kind of slowly unravel what's going on with his father, and then maybe also deal with like a daughter who was in the undercombs or something like that. I'd probably start with him more than with Mara, but that's like a thing we can deal with later. Or like one of his sons is like her love interest or something like that, you know, who joins her on her quest or something like that.
I actually do like that though. I do like Fenris a lot. But so here's a really interesting thing that I think hits the nail on the head. Will, what you're getting at so far sounds like a good thematic through line of dissonance between fairy tales and the real world, i.e. wanting simplistic solutions to complicated problems, which I think is great. And honestly, for what we're building up, because like the solution is to stop using magic by not understanding it in an overly simplistic ways. That's the actual solution. But this guy keeps battering his head away at trying to control a force in a simplistic way that he has no actual control over. Lindbergh says,
yeah, and it also could be something where he keeps trying to go ahead actually with that first.
Sorry, Lindbergh says, normally though daughters would be wed to other royalty to create political alliances. Question is if there is a good enough reason to forego this simple logic. So the other question we have to ask is, how many other kingdoms have been taken over by the blight, and how many are left that are nearby and convenient for a political alliance?
Yeah. Also, so there are actually some other good ideas too. Celia said his daughters can be sent to the Covenant, so there is a connection to Mara again. That could be really cool as like a character. Sickly daughters have to consume flesh, becomes a religious rite. That's also pretty cool. I like this idea, the daughters to the Covenant, like maybe one escaped there or something like that, and that could be a way of tying in a character into her quest of figuring out what's going on with him. And then so the other thing is that I like the idea that the fairy tale idea of like it's one person to solve the realm's problems versus like aristocracy versus the proletariat, you know what I mean? Like he keeps trying to centralize power and fix all the problems with these sons, and each time it doesn't work well. So actually, go ahead.
Question, because someone just brought up, Celia brought up a point. Nope, not Celia, where is it? Valerie. So does this imply he has already had an heir or several heirs? Then what is Kanya's duty as the wife? What if his sons keep dying? And the reason partially that he keeps collecting new godmothers is because all of his sons keep dying at a very young age, and he's trying to find the perfect blessing to keep them living past it. Because that we do need him. We need the death of the first sister, and we need Kanya to be in place because that's our catalyst. And so we do need a reason for them to, like, for Kanya to have children and potentially die from childbirth. And so potentially, like, none of his kids last past the age of 5.
So here's an idea I like. All the stuff we're saying for him is actually his father. So his father is this old man who keeps trying to breed these perfect princes, and he was supposed to be one of these perfect princes, but he ended up really flawed somehow. And so it's his like younger brothers, and then he is now also trying to do this. But yeah, I also like the idea that they keep trying to create these princes and it keeps not working. Like something keeps going wrong. I would actually really like a scene with the mother-in-law of Kanya, where like she has had so many births and they have so many of them have died, and that was a really sad thing. I remember God, there was some movie, I think it's called The Favorite, which is about one of the queens of England. And at one point there's a point where it's revealed that like she's had like 13 stillbirths or something like that, and just the emotional toll that has taken on her, you realize like, oh, that's so traumatic to have. And I think that could be an interesting kind of character we're seeing.
I really like that. Judo Shrew says, I love the ideas of cannibals and royalty, like it's them hiding a problem that they can't solve. Miss Allie Snow says, the fairy tale conceit here could be one special snowflake person will be able to solve all of the world's problems, and Rowling is trying to produce that child.
And they say, sorry, somebody already said that. I had to go feed the cat so they'd stop biting my toes. That's what I said. I said it before you. So nice try. Nice try to use your cat as an excuse, but I had said that too. I just want credit. Yeah, no, I like that. I think that's really kind of a cool idea. Like maybe the godmother blessings can be like, he will bring peace to the kingdom or something like that. And actually what they're doing is they're creating, what would be interesting if they were creating a link, a stronger and stronger link between the royalty and the land, kind of that Fisher King idea of if the king is sick, then the land is sick. That could be a kind of a thing, and they don't realize that actually like that's not a great thing to have the prince be so tied to the land and his like health or personality tied to it.
Celia made a good point, and he keeps hoping for it to be the 3rd kid, then the 7th kid, like all the magical numbers, like there's just this one perfect combination of children that will end everything and save the world, and it hasn't happened yet. And if that's the case, it would actually make sense that Mara would be the next on his hit list if her sister dies, because maybe this prophecy only works if he uses Mara's fan. Like he's
daughters of the old blood are the only ones who they think will make, the whole Habsburg chin kind of an idea. Like actually that could be one of the reasons he's going to war everywhere, is he keeps trying to harvest the Habsburg line, and like that's why he's going to fight off different people, and like because they won't marry their daughters to him anymore. Maybe that could be kind of something interesting.
I love it.
That's a lot of really good, interesting. All right, so let's see how we can write that down. Okay, so how do we write all this down? Help me out.
Which part?
Where do we start? Okay.
So Rowling. So you said Rowling trying to create fairy tale princes. I would say trying to create the perfect chosen prince, with which the blight would be completely ended with. And there, honestly, it would be great if there was like a prophecy about how to get rid of the blighted lands, and it just ends up being like something very straightforward. Like we'd have to write it in a really clever way that it would sound like, and he's been working his whole life towards this specific thing, and it's literally just like Mara and a dude from somewhere, and they just like blow up the castle.
No, they pull a Tamlin. There's a fertility rite, and like their seed refreshes the world, the blighted land. It's a good idea, right? Also, we could use a riddle like the one used in Akatar, right? And you're like, oh, I don't know what the answer is. No one can figure this out. It's so subtle, right? That's the kind of riddle you were thinking of?
I was thinking more like Dune-esque, except playing into uh the idea that the chosen one is not a chosen one. Like it is just someone who does the thing. Like there's a thing that has to be done.
One of your ideas I remember for Dune was that, like, yeah, they're trying to build their own prophet essentially, and it's like the actual answer is prophets don't help with these kind of things. You kind of need the, the will of the people type of a kind of a thing. So he's trying to breed. I like that word better. Breed. I'm actually gonna bold that. Hold it, not italicize it. Breed the perfect prince to make his land prosper and stop the Vorling line to spread of the blighted land. The prince was the closest so far, but not perfect. Each blessing requires the capture of a godmother, which makes the blighted
Lands
trenches a hole in reality and creates liminal places and concepts. Okay, perfect princes can only be bred from the Habsburg line. Mara is one of them. Mara and her sisters.
Yeah, and we can
Her
say that like
sisters
Vorling's people came when they came to power 100 years ago, or however long that they've been in power. Like we'll say maybe like 500 years. They were new. Like they dethroned the previous.
Yeah. Of that line, Vorling keeps going to war with other kingdoms to get their daughter, their princess.
While you write that, I'm gonna read some things.
Okay.
Judo Shrew says we wanted to rewrite a good book, but just ended up with Akatar. Angry Otter says if you're going to take anything away from Akatar, it should be the bog.
Oh yeah, the bog was good.
The bog was the best part of that book, man. Judo Shrew says, I'm just imagining he eats the not as good chosen one princes. What? Casual cannibalism.
Oh, no. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Like the stillborn ones they eat?
Or maybe they feed it to the ones who are still... Oh, God.
Oh,
or
God.
to the mothers, unbeknownst to the mother. Oh, God. Fuck us, guys. That
Jesus, imagine Kanye having to eat her child. Oh,
and then
like a stillborn.
Slowly, and she's slowly becoming one of the weird... Like she's becoming... Oh, God. And that's why he keeps having to marry new people, because his wives keep becoming deranged cannibals.
Or just insane for having to eat their own child.
Children, right. Yeah, that's true. And so people think cannibalism is causing insanity, but it's because they're eating their own... Oh, God, this is wild. What are we
Wasn't there a Korean zombie show that was about like the emperor becomes... I think it was called The Kingdom, where the emperor becomes a zombie. And everyone is like, they can't deal with the outbreak because it's the king. Nobody's supposed to like go out against him or something like that. I liked that. Many princes are... Go ahead.
Miss Allie Snow says, and somehow Fenris is the one who fills the prophecy because I loved him and wanted him to be a bigger part of the world and just a rando from another country. Me too, Allie. Me too.
Yeah, we have a problem where, like, if you're in the book, it works okay. But yeah, Fenris is just a rando. Like that kind of... He needs to now be tied into the plot, because otherwise, like, what are we doing? Many princes... I think it's an apostrophe here.
Angry Otter says, can't waste the bloodline. Eat the dead princes. Or maybe the godmothers have to eat the dead princes. Like they're sacrificed to them. And it's in one way, because you know how that we were saying that the godmothers are being kept alive in the actual book. The godmothers are being kept alive by this curse? What if part of it, and what is further corrupting the godmothers, and why he needs to get more is because they keep feeding them the dead princes who have been blessed by their own magic, and so it's like this feedback circle of just like grossness.
Okay, so I like the dead fetuses both literally and what's the opposite of literally? Not conceptually, but I'm gonna put cannibalized by the royal line. How about usually they are fed to the godmothers? Orling tries something new
A little
and
different.
has Kanya eat her child.
You could do it something like the king is a cannibal, but he keeps trying to get the perfect heir, but instead just ends up eating them on their honeymoon instead.
I actually do like him as like some kind of weird bloodborne boss where he just keeps chomping on his kids to try to
no, I like that as
bring
well.
the energy back.
They have to test the princes, see if they came out right.
They're like seasoning, or
so
the king
like
eats them to recycle their power.
Yeah. So Celia said, I like the idea of having a farmer or a servant or something in Mara's team as well to deal the final blow, because then it is this normal dude saving the land instead of this prophecy or like a perfect prince.
As Monty Python said, legitimacy of the government springs from the will of the people, not watery tarts throwing swords. What if he just kept eating the kids so that each time it would push out a kid with the blessings from the last one or something like that? And so he's kind of trying to combo up the different,
and he is becoming more and more insane with each child he eats. Oh, that's kind of good.
I like that.
I think that might be the way to go. Or
the king eats them to recycle their power. So each new prince will have the blessings.
Okay, learning the real value of okay, so if he's taking all the wrong lessons from fairy tales by looking for these simple magical solutions, someone should be sent up to contrast with him. Learning the real value of a fairy tale being something like endurance of hope and ability to persevere in the face of darkness. Ariana says, OMG, it's giving Mexican Gothic vibes.
I read that book, and it does kind of have those vibes. I didn't love that book. I really wanted to like it, but I didn't. Talk about it later. Also, Judo, Miss Allie Snow, and Angry Otter all said it's figuratively coming in clutch instead of conceptually.
Got it. The heroic.
It really does sound like some kind of a Bloodborne or Dark Souls. You don't. This is a man thing.
I know both of those. My brother plays them. You shithead.
I tried playing Sekiro and just could not win the combat at any point. It was so hard. What time is it? Okay, no, we still have a little bit to go. Okay, so I'm gonna put this up here, and you guys can see it, and I'm gonna turn off my audio because I don't want you guys to hear me drinking. Maria can entertain you.
Welcome. I got a cat. Oh, look. Heckin' cat. So adorable. Heckin' cat. She is sleeping. Oh, man. There should just be cats.
Angry Otter says, Pistolas, Silvia Moreno Garcia is a queen. So I actually want to read her new one, The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, just to see if it was better. I think my biggest problem with Mexican Gothic wasn't that it was bad. It's just that it was more like English Gothic, but in Mexico. Like the family isn't even Mexican; they're like British, which I felt like was kind of. But we can talk about that at another time. Maybe I'll pick it for. Cats are the best.
They are.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my dog more than you love your cats, but like it's so cute. Your cat is so pretty. That's right. That's right. And my dog does not like me nearly as much as your cats like you.
My cats adore me. Okay, back to business. Enough pumpkin. You hear that, pumpkin? Enough of you.
Lindbergh says, "Are we cutting demon chicken? What about the dust wife?" I don't know. I think there's ways to make those more grim, dark, but also like we
Yes.
have so much going on.
So that's one of the things I was thinking about. Like, we might need a two-parter for this because right now we're just working on a bunch of conceptual things, and then part two would be we need to start actually thinking of what the plot would look like and what actually gets to stay. Because we might run into the problem that I often have, which is a too many things problem, and we're on the road to too many things, which is fine in the conceptual stage and working through that stuff. I like the idea of keeping the Dustwife, like Will said in the beginning, where she is more uh
Creepy.
like creepy and less grumpy old lady who is endearing. I love Demon Chicken, but unfortunately I think Demon Chicken belongs in the second half of the actual book. The tone of Demon Chicken is a little silly in the best way. I loved Demon Chicken, I loved Bone Dog, I loved Dustwife Agnes, but
To be honest, I would have liked Demon Chicken if it didn't actually have a demon in it, and everyone, because you as a reader are immediately like, clearly that has a demon in it, and it would actually just it was just like a shitty chicken who just like scratched a rune out at the proper time to implode a spell or something like that
yeah.
by being caught. Like something like that was a little bit more inversion, because from the beginning you're like, oh, clearly there's a demon in that chicken. But yeah.
Yep. So
Sorry,
I think Demon Chicken has to go. I think we don't. I also think Dustwife might need to stay at like the place where she is and doesn't go on the adventure. I think it works. And I think Mara will become a less passive character, which I think we need based on how she is at the first half of the book. And with all the shit we're setting up, she needs to be more of an active character. And I think one way to do that is to not include, again, I love the Dustwife, but we're writing second half of the book to match the first half, not the other way around.
Okay. Okay, so I think we have a good start. Here's what we do, I think. I think all of this stuff with Vorling, with Vorling and the Habsburg line, I think all of this cannibalized by or the king that eats them to recycle the power so each new prince will have the blessings of the previous. I think this is just a really cool idea. I think we keep that, and then from there, maybe when he had like what could the blessings be, because that could be kind of fun to come up with. Like, what are usually things that are in fairy tales, that are blessings in fairy tales, and you could see how
courage, strength of heart, but health, old Agnes was right. Health's a good one.
marrying a prince,
marrying a prince, happiness. I also love when like happiness makes the person unable to like
toxic positivity.
Process. Yeah, like that kind of stuff.
Lindbergh said, well, how about Fenris isn't a dude and we can still have a lesbian romance? It's funny. My mom was saying the other day that like you guys always in your rewrites add like some sapphic. She didn't say sapphic. I think she said lesbian. Romantic interest, and I'm like, look, it works for the story, and the story is king.
So Ali Snow says, "Go give Kanya a girlfriend." I'm actually into Kanya being into women, and that's part of the reason why her marriage is so difficult for her.
I don't hate it. Though I think there are other reasons if she eats the stillborn that it might not be. Though some people eat placenta.
We can't listen. Either he is eating the babies, or she is, or the godmothers are. You cannot do all of it. Pick who is eating the babies, William.
Here's what I think happens. Usually he eats the babies, but this it's not working. Something's going wrong. So he tries to have her eat the baby, and that's what causes just like the explosion of the blighted land. Like that's just like something there breaks the world.
Oh, and maybe because she had oh god, that's so. Maybe there's something particularly.
Maybe she had like a blessing, and the blessings conflict or something like that.
Yeah. Listen, guys, you gotta stop. They could just get together and have a baby.
Cannibalized. Hold on, I'm writing stuff. Cannibalized by the royal line. The king eats them to recycle their blessings.
Also, I'm now team Kanya is into girls, and we have to give her a girlfriend.
I am not. Look, if she's bitchy and hot, so I'm now into it. You know what it could be? It could be the vibe of that one, that one couple in Mask of Mirrors that didn't get enough.
Oh yeah, yeah.
God, that was such a good relationship, and it went nowhere.
It went nowhere. It probably goes somewhere in the second book. We don't know. And then we get to keep Fenris and Mara, because I like that as a couple. But you could make, like someone was saying, like having the innocent farmer character. We could give Fenris more of those tropey vibes, to overcome. Though I did love the idea of him as this like giant looking warrior dude who was actually also a diplomat. But you know, you can't have so many things. You can't.
I didn't love Fenris.
I know you didn't love Fenris. I can't think of. There's a handful of male characters
that you
have ever liked. It is goddamn true, and I have witnesses here who have watched most of our videos. Guys, what male characters has Will genuinely liked and been like, I really liked him. He was a favorite character.
Okay, all right. Look, no, I'm gonna go. This calls for pistolas. I'm gonna look back through our log very quickly. Outside of books that I liked, because obviously, like, you know, Diana Wynne Jones. I'm gonna like, if it's a good book, I like all the characters in it. Yes. Let's see. Daughter of Death and Fortune Gods. Okay, Little Thieves. I didn't like anyone. Ancillary Justice. I liked what's his face in there, even though he always uses female pronouns.
That's a huge reason I thought
Sifo-Dyne?
I think you liked him.
I like him because he's like so like shitty. Like he's just not a good person. But then he kind of claws his way back.
The funny thing is, though, when it starts and it says she, before you realize Sifo-Dyne is actually a guy, I think you defaulted to hot bitchy woman. And then you just went with it once you found out.
I mean, that's not a bad point. Pearl says Sean from Scorpio Races. Yes, I did like him.
This is true. I will give you Sean from Scorpio Races.
Again, that's like a good book. Again, it's books that are middling to bad where I just don't. I think it clearly comes away as like I didn't love them. Will is that mean girl who hates other women but gender swap. Yeah, that
guys, you have no idea.
That checks out.
Like, Will has had one really good male friend.
Who wants to be friends with guys? Like, ugh. You're weird. You're weird. That's one of the reasons I think I tend not to like your friends, is that you like me and I don't like myself. So the kinds of people you tend to be friends with, I don't like.
And that's why Murderbot was not a well-loved character of yours.
That's not the only reason. I liked Jobs from Remnants, though again, I liked that series as a whole. I liked the male characters in the Warhammer books. Those weren't great books. The
only male character I remember you actively liking was the savant dude. Mm-hmm. Not the from the
to be fair. I tend to like main male characters when they're the viewpoint character, but we just mostly read girl books, so we don't really like. I can count on one hand how many male point of view characters we've had on the whole channel. It's one of the reasons we also end up with way more sapphic books than gay books. All right, this has been a fruitless side tangent.
Anyway, I'm right. We're just gonna call it. Lindbergh says, I think we should make Fenris into someone who has done something very bad, and because of that, he's looking for redemption by helping Mara.
I think it could be interesting to have him have done bad things for the king, or have been on that side of things, and then have like run into the Blighted Lands to get away from it. You know, something like that could also be interesting.
Like instead of ending up sleeping in a fairy circle, he went into the Blighted Lands. After the whole,
we actually have to get rid of the fairies, though. I did like them in the book, especially the creepy like dentist one, which actually, funnily enough, not as creepy as actually going to the dentist. I would prefer that.
Just getting the
bird who just takes it out is
danced out of your mouth.
Ceridian says, not sure if Mail is correct, but isn't Murderbot Will's favorite character ever? Oh God, I'm never gonna escape that book.
You're never going to. It doesn't help that the rest of us really liked it.
That's the reason I don't like it, I think. Yeah, okay. So, right. Okay. So basically, I wrote down what we were talking about. The king eats them to recycle their blessings for the next prince to change things up. He has Kanya eat her own stillborn child. This conflicts with a godmother blessing she had and causes a vast expansion of the blighted lands. I think that's good, right?
I think that's good.
I felt like Fenris suffered from love interest syndrome, which is to say he was boring and half a character. Yeah, I actually think that's a big problem of it. It's kind of like what's his face in Little Thieves, Emmerich, who's like starts as kind of an interesting character and midway through becomes like he just a lot of water drizzles on him and his flesh turns into like fabric so that he becomes a wet blanket. Body horror.
Miss Celia says he also needed to have some character development. He's good now, but he needs some more work. Miss Allie Snow says Fenris just wasn't connected enough to the rest of the story. He felt, I dare say it, perfunctory. And I say that as someone who really enjoyed him and Mara together, which I agree. I can absolutely
Angry Otter says he'd be better as Bonris. I mean, not a bad idea. I mean, they did do some bone rissing.
Great. Nice job.
Look, I'm working on it's work. It's a workshop, all right? This is a brainstorming process. Okay, so I think then that I also so the thing about I was about to write and then the people come to get Vanya or to get Mara to like have her be the next breeding cow or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I liked the idea more that Mara was just like, fuck that, I'm getting revenge for my sister. Like, yes, this guy,
I like Mara's that as a plot.
Is revenge. She's had enough of this prince bullshit. I like that very much.
Fuck that guy.
Merge Bone Dog and Fenris. Look. Undead werewolf monster boyfriend.
Listen, you had me at hello.
No, here's what we do. He's a big bone wolf.
But then he would have been an actual wolf. You can't it wouldn't be the human.
But he's like a human smart wolf dog. Like not a werewolf, but like a
Are there human smart wolf dogs in this world? Because it only works if that exists, and that's what he was before he died.
All right, fine, that's true.
Because I'm okay with just having him as giant skeleton boyfriend. Like, I have no issue with giant skeleton boyfriend. Fenris was an old warrior that they literally resurrected from the dead. Maybe he recently died, so he's kind of like an actual zombie, unlike the actual cannibals who aren't actually zombies. Or maybe he's just a bone skeleton, but he's really good with the sword. And like there are moments where you see like a ghostly version of his old self. I'm on board.
Look, there definitely can still get down to some boning, which is more than you can say for a lot of monster boyfriends. Lindbergh said he's a man cursed to be a bone wolf. I actually think what would be interesting is he's a wolf cursed to be a man. I think that would be kind of an interesting subversion of the werewolf trope. By the way, audio listeners, me and Maria are giving each other eyebrows. Let's see.
I always forget you audio listeners exist. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. I like man cursed to be bone wolf. Fits with the Fairytale vibe. I think that's kind of cool too.
Okay. I'll allow it. Man cursed to be bone wolf. Because I like the idea. Listen, did I expect us to somehow fit monster boyfriend? No, I did not.
Lindbergh said, so he eats people. Yes. So he was probably cursed to be forced to eat people and never, but he's a bone, so he never like actually feels full.
Maybe he was a lord of a different kingdom, like one of the the same kingdom that he was, but he was one of the actual lords, and he was super against any form of cannibalism. So he would just kill, like even if it happened once and you never did it again, if you displayed any of the signs of someone who had ingested, he just killed you. Like, he was super harsh in his punishment, and now he is a giant wolf forced to feed upon human flesh.
Or like he was the enforcer maybe of the Knights of like Vorling or something like that, tied into, because again, if he comes from somewhere else, that's kind of like a weird.
I'm okay with him being one of Vorling's people.
Like yeah, and like he tried to stop them at one point, and they were like, "No, you're not going to be a bone wolf." Bone wolf with a hunger for human flesh. Ironic, since
he used to kill a lot of cannibals.
Bones.
Since he's bones.
Well, like because he hungers for human flesh, but he can never be satisfied by it.
Yeah, he's never fleshy.
Here. Also,
yes, like but we can make him tortured by what he is emotionally.
Also, he's the size of a
cart,
of a small elephant, not a cart. Oh, actually, you know what? Cart is good.
Yeah, a cart. That's a pretty big. The carts are huge.
Elephants are actually not as large as you would think. I understand.
African elephants are fucking massive.
People are, well, that's what I was gonna say. People, I know it's racist to say, but there are some biological realities. Asian elephants are smaller than African elephants, and that's a lot of what people ride on are Asian elephants. So people assume elephants are African plains elephants, because there's actually 3 types of African elephant, which are fucking massive and scary. But actually, usually what you ride on is an Asian elephant, which again, this is just a biological reality, smaller.
I don't know why you're like, I don't think anybody actually debates that.
It's so funny. Because never mind. There's another joke there that you're not getting. Maybe he's a nettle wolf cursed to be a bone wolf. That would actually be kind of true.
So, Angry Otter made the point, because somebody said we need to workshop I think it was Celia? I forgot who. Somebody made the point that we need to workshop the name, because what do nettles have to do with anything? And Angry Otter says nettles were used to make the owl cloth. They should be used for other things. And what I like is, remember when she was making the owl cloth thing and it burned her hands just to even touch the nettles? If the nettles were a magic she somehow learned how to use, like they are a different type of magic, like a more elemental magic, not what the godmothers use. I also like the idea that she has to use them for sewing, because I like that kind of female coded ability that she would have, as like that's kind of her magic. And like it's such a weird idea that you can sew things with nettles, and like that somehow puts them together or something like that. So like the way she puts the bone dog together, or the bone wrist, or fen bone, depending on what we name him, is with nettles. He should just be already there. We need to think of a new second task. Okay, because if he's been cursed to be a giant bone wolf, he's a giant bone wolf. It could be to like put a demon inside a chicken. Oh, that's not a bad idea. I was thinking more like create a nettle collar for him, or a nettle something to control him. Yeah, or like a nettle thing to put around his muzzle, like kind of an actual Fenrir idea of like that's her challenge, is to put a nettle rope around his jaws. Yes, and that's what keeps him from eating her specifically, and allows him to talk to her, and she's able to understand him. Pearl said, or have the nettles be incorporated more closely into the Dustwife and or Agnes's magic. Dustwife teaches Mara how to use nettle magic. Celia says it is also her working on magic instead of a blessing, which is granted. Sorry, a fight just happened. I like the idea of nettles being used for binding specifically. And she ends up using her cloak that she made to bind maybe that king that they have to like bind the spirit of, to get rid of that initial, the first. And I like the idea of the godmother of the Northern Kingdom being the first bound godmother. She was the first one ever bound, and that's the start of it. And then Mara can use the nettle cloak to bind the spirit of that king and finally put him to rest. Because I love the idea of nettles, because then that actually like really brings it thematically into the book more. Do nettles like actually, is it, okay, this is going to be a weird question. Do nettles actually have like thorns, or like what's so bad about nettles? Because I'm looking them up and they just look like leaves. It's these. Oh, they have like nettles. Little tiny stinging things. Oh God, those are awful. My mom. And some of them are poisonous. Yeah, you know, there's a kind of
plant my mom has, because of course she does, that's a vine that actually shoots little crystalline shards at you if you like start screwing with it. We also have some sugar cane that will like hit you with like little. My mom has a lot of weird plants. Shout out, mom. Okay, so her magic is being able to sew with nettles.
No. She
Creating
had to sew with
bindings.
thorns. The nettles themselves are the fabric she sews together.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
nettles
nettles
are just a type of
with
plant that are like,
thorns. Okay, that's what I was having problems creating
yeah.
bindings.
No, well, the idea is if you have a cloak of nettle that is this sharp, or it's not even sharp, but these little poisonous, burny, stingy plant, and you wrap it around something, it binds them. Now she has to use like maybe sharp, barbarous thorns to sew
I
the
do like,
nettles
yeah.
together.
Oh, okay, yeah. You know what? Yeah. So nettles with thorns, creating bindings. First, she creates a cloak, then what do they call the thing they bind Fenrir
Muzzle.
with? I think it's just a
Muzzle.
rope to muzzle Fenbone.
Fenbone.
He used to punish cannibals as
We
part
really
of.
took his name to the appropriate conclusion.
Hilarious. That's hilarious.
We made him a dog in the end.
Bard. He was cursed. I also kind of like the idea that maybe he was against eating, or he was kind of like for treating the cannibals nicely, and they were like, nah, now you got to eat them. Like, now this is your job. Like, this is what you got to do full time. And like, I don't know though, because that kind of plays, that's not great with the whole redemption part, but I do think thematically that's kind of fun as well. But we don't have to come up with an answer.
Yeah. So in response, what I meant is that she has to use giant thorns to sew the nettle leaves together. The nettles don't actually have thorns. That's how she has to sew them, is what I meant. And then Miss Allie Snow said, I remember she and this is from a different book. She soaked the nettles and pounded them into fibers and then has to reconstitute them into yarn or something. I like this. We got a giant wolf dog Fenris. We got a
yeah. So what I got is he used to punish Fenris. He used to punish cannibals, part of the King's Guard. He was cursed to be a giant bone wolf with a hunger for human flesh. Ironic, since he's bones now. Also, he's the size of a cart. Marl's second task was to muzzle him with nettle rope.
I like the idea. Continue, sorry. I like the idea of the Dust Wife not actually helping her, but just giving her tasks that if she does them, it will help her defeat him. Like getting Fenbone would be a very useful thing. Creating a cloak that could bind the spirit of the old dead king to break the initial binding of the. So whatever the third thing has to be something that also
has to do with binding.
that will help her in the end.
Yeah, and it should be like less straightforward somehow.
Yes.
And she's like, why the fuck am I making socks out of nettles or something like that, you know?
Who curses Fenris? Very good question.
Forling's godmother, Agnes.
Ooh. I like the idea of it being Agnes. Like, Agnes is a godmother who is unbound. She's just out here doing her own thing, traveling, being a eldritch creature. And she binds Fenris for what she sees as a crime against other people. And so she is a force working, because Vorling's witches would be working off of what he wants, which is, killing the cannibals.
Yeah, I like that. I'll write that down.
The demon chicken. We're trying so hard to get that demon chicken back in the plot, guys.
I mean, that would be a fun callback if she was like, and he ate my demon chicken. And she's like, you had a chicken with the temper of a demon? And she's like, no, he actually had a demon. And now by order of property, he now has a demon in him. That would actually be pretty funny. He was
too many things
by Agnes. It's like demon chicken. Got some food poisoning. Okay. I think there's probably some more things we could refine into what's going on with him, but for right now, I think that's pretty good.
Yes.
Nettles. Let me create one for Mara. Okay, so the actual plot then is in her.
She has to make the muzzle. That's her new second task. So she makes the cloak. She has to make the muzzle, and then she has to use the muzzle to tame Fenris, like capture him. And then again, I think the thing is figuring out what that third task is going to be, and then how it helps her in the end.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a cool idea.
Maybe she has to bind Agnes, but in like a mutual binding. Like she has to whatever her third task is something that Agnes wants, and then they enter so that we still have the three major players in the original book, but just in a slightly different situation. And it's a mutual binding to each other.
Yeah, I like the idea of recontextualing binding from control to like maybe binding the two of them together or something like that.
Like
you know what I mean? Maybe like Agnes and her have a romance and it's kind of like a cougar situation.
No. Listen, you cannot give me a giant bone dog and then tell me no one is romancing the giant bone wolf. Jesus, William. Get it together.
Oh, that's really funny. Okay. That's gonna be the cold open. Oh, this is at 138.
Okay,
so funny. I'm getting tired out. Hold on.
Okay. So what?
All right. Mara creates muzzle Fenbone. He has to follow her because only she can what? They go back to the Dust Wife. It wasn't Bone Witch, by the way. It was Dust Wife.
Dust Wife. Yes, thank you. Somebody said that earlier too.
Monster boyfriend trash unite.
It is our year. That's what I told someone. I was like, the cause of 2023 is monster boyfriend.
Yeah, you're talking to I think Magical Shauna.
Yeah.
She gives them a third task. Gives Mara a third task. Go ahead, say what you're gonna say.
I don't know. What's the third task? So again, we know the third task needs to be how she gets Agnes on board in a positive way.
But I was gonna have it just be binding Agnes, but I do like the idea that there's something a little bit more creative.
Something that she has to make that ends up being something Agnes needs, and that's what draws them together.
Okay, Agnes's thing is I really liked Agnes when we first met her, and she was just like kind of like, you know, uncertain of herself and like, look, I wanted to be a great witch, but it's just I can't do it. Like that's what I really liked about her.
Unfortunately, that's too light for our tone.
That's what I'm saying is that like I'm trying to think if we could grim darkify it somehow.
Again, I like her as this just sniper force, like on her own, just trying to attack. Like she happened to get her hands on Fenris. She turned him into a bone wolf, and then like she's just going around and cursing people. Like she curses, but she's trying to curse for good. Like she's slowly, and her goal is to find her way to Vorling and that family and just curse. And like her original plan is to curse all of them. Kanya, everyone in that tower is fucking going down.
You know what? Here's what we do. She isn't the third task. What she is instead is she gives the something to achieve the task. Fenbone tells Mara about Agnes, and they need her help to achieve the task. So like maybe they're like I don't know, whatever thing she needs to do, Fenbone is like, oh, I know this bitch. She cursed me. That's how we need her help to do it, or something like that.
So again, the problem is there's two ways that you can look at this, and there's The problem is she's doing all this stuff because she wants the Dustwife's help to kill the prince. So either each of the 3 things she does ends up being specific things that will help her to kill the prince.
Oh.
Or, because if we do it the way you're talking about now, where whatever they do, they need Agnes's help for, then what are we doing with the Dustwife? Because it like, which is why doing it my way, which is what the thing that they make for the 3rd task is something that will give them Agnes. And then the Dustwife is like, you don't need my help. You now have everything you need.
Right. No, I get that. My thing was more like they need to make a thing, and to make the thing, they need like a witch's, like a godmother's help or something like that. And then Agnes just tags along after that. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. That makes sense too.
I mean, I guess you could work it in both ways. We just still don't have what the actual thing is. That's the important part. And is the thing itself important, or is getting Agnes on the good side the actual game?
Well, what's Agnes gonna be able to do? Because
she knows what's up with the godmothers, and she provides the information. Because I like the idea of no one beside like Mara and Fenbone not fully understanding what is happening, and Agnes, who already is trying to do this, like, and so Agnes gives them the piece that like a bunch of godmothers are being held hostage at the bottom of the thing, slowly wasting away, and that a huge force would be if they can undo the bindings with them, and that she's willing to help them do that. Because that's what she is fighting for.
Okay, I think you're right. I think the way to do this is that some kind of whatever thing they need to bind Agnes with is actually kind of like a freedom for her. So maybe it's a way of binding her godmotherness, like so that she's less schizophrenic or like less back and forth. Like, you know, binding as freeing from a manic state rather than binding as control of.
That's what I was thinking of. So what I was thinking is that when you bind them purely by force or by not by choice, they become the manic crazy creatures. She is unbound. She is just a free godmother out doing her shit, so she has control of herself. She chooses, by whatever happens in that 3rd task, to bind herself to Mara's journey and Mara's fate. But it is a mutual binding where they choose to trust each other, and thus it empowers both of them.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because I also like the idea that Mara has to bind herself to something. Like it's not just control. In this moment, she needs to give up some of her control.
Yeah, and that enables you to not just do curses. It also opens up a more positive side of magic that she can get to. And that's why a lot of the curses for the access. And that's why a lot of the curses that are the blessings on the princes aren't working the way they should, because it's a forced binding. So the magic that the godmothers have are fueled by that negative intent. Where if you have a positive binding where a godmother chooses to bind themselves to you, you're going to get positive intent and positive outcomes. And that is why the outcomes of all of these blessings are never what they're supposed to be. Vorling thinks it's because he hasn't found the right bloodline, but it's because he's literally binding the godmothers through force.
I also like the idea that it's just like the godmothers don't belong in this world. Like they're just a fallout from it. They're like radioactive material. Like they really should not be around. They just cause bad things. They are not of this world. And so yeah, those two things could be tied together, I think. You read through the comments because they've been saying some stuff. I'm gonna write that
down. So so Angry Otter, and this was about Agnes. She's imprisoned in the market for cursing people, and they were talking about the fairy market. Earlier, let me go start from the beginning. Angry Otter says, since she's half fair or whatever, maybe they have to go to the market and free her. Allie says, her nature is just to curse people left and right, but she feels bad about it. And then Allie said, or maybe she's hiding in the market because there are people that are uncursable. Angry Otter says, yeah, less has to be changed if they keep the market retrieval scene. And then Allie said, and this is interesting, can we pull in the tapestry map here? And then
I really liked that.
Yeah. And the idea that Allie had at some point, which happens later, like maybe the tapestry map is made of nettles, which is interesting.
I like the binding of Agnes to not be so like binding Fenris. It's literally a rope, but maybe it's the tapestry map is like a tapestry of like who Agnes is. Like it's a rewriting of her identity, not identity, but it's like a solidifying of who she is. Like the tapestry says who she is, so she remembers it better, so to speak.
And maybe she gives it to what's her face freely. Like
oh, you know what? No. The tapestry is Mara describing herself, and she gives that to Agnes.
Oh, and that's what they bind over. Like they bond
Right.
over. Yeah. Oh,
It's
I
a
like the
binding
idea
of
of binding
herself.
is bonding. Yeah. Great.
Okay, so Mara, but like at the beginning, she doesn't quite know what the Dustwife is talking about. Doesn't.
Like maybe she has to literally make a tapestry out of nettles that is who she is. Like that is like describing her. And so maybe it's a self-portrait, maybe it's a scene that she feels embodies who she is. And it's this painful thing to make, and then she presents it to Agnes. Agnes accepts it, and then instead of a binding, it's a bonding. And thus positive magic is available, baby.
Yeah, that she must bind herself. She sews a tapestry of
Task 3, weave yourself into cloth.
Actually, that would be such a cool idea. Okay, that she must bind herself. She sews a tapestry of herself, or even maybe like, so you know, in The Giver, you read that book, right?
I have.
Where like he can use up memories, and then afterwards he remembers the thing, but he doesn't remember the emotions of it or the color of it. Like it's there, but all of the maybe it's something like that where she can actually tie memories of herself or parts of herself into this tapestry, and that gives.
And maybe it's her positive feelings towards her sisters.
She sews a tapestry of her love for her sisters. Yes, bind herself. She sews a tapestry of her sisters.
And it's the three of them.
It to.
Oh.
No, and you know what it is that is why Agnes is now going to work with her, because she's a fairy godmother. She doesn't understand why she would even help. Like, what does she care for what's happening with the daughters or the sisters? But now that that's sort of a certain amount of humanity she has.
She's now been given the emotionality to understand what is happening.
Exactly.
And it grounds her to the world in a good way and makes her want to help. Instead of being forced to help, it gives her an emotional lens with which she can understand what is happening and want to help. Instead of just revenge for like godmothers and maybe like her original thing is just to put balance back. Like she sees all this disbalance and she just wants to put balance back, and that's what she's doing as her own like free godmother self. But it is through this interaction with Mara that she fully like they can use her in a more productive way.
And before this, she is kind of like the Fae in the Starry and Spinning a Silver, where her world operates by different rules. So like when she made Fenbone, it was like, oh, I said a thing that was true, but when I say a thing that is true, it affects your world. So I told him, you are a dog, or you are a wolf who feeds upon humans, and that is what made him into
the wolf. But she didn't actually, like, it wasn't her intent to curse him. That's just how
said a thing
in that liminal space that like floaty amorphous way she interacts
symbolic
with the world.
Versus literal.
Oh my god, I fucking love it. Gorgeous. Also, I'm gonna, while you do that, so Ceridian said, that's really damn good, Maria. Thanks. And then Angry on to task 3, weave yourself into cloth. And the Ceridian said, oh my god, that's amazing. Celia said, I love this so much. Someone write that book. And look, then
with Fenbone, there's a good chance Maria will.
And then Judo Shrew said, I love the idea that magic must be understood. Like magic abused comes with a cost, but it doesn't always have to be. Then it becomes how we misuse our blessings. And then Celia said, this is the book I wanted to read. And then Angrada said, damn you, that's good. Thanks, guys. Ideas are fun.
The way Agnes' magic works is it is figurative, not literal. The way she changed Fenbone was simply by saying what he looked like to her. So I recently watched a little bit of the new Lord of the Rings Amazon series. It was terrible, but one of the things is that when Gandalf or Saruman falls to Earth, and I don't remember which, and I don't know which of the two of it is, like the first time he tries to talk, it is just like uh just a burst of sound that kind of breaks people's ears, and it's like an otherworldly thing. And like, you know, there's a lot of that in the Old Testament too. Like you have angels talk to humans because God's voice would destroy them. And so I like the idea that maybe, like, again, she just says a thing, and because she said it, it has the power to change this world. Like that's the thing about godmothers, is when they talk, it changes our world. And so like they don't talk a lot, they have to be silent a lot of the time, or they'll act. And then so by giving her the tapestry, she can now speak without destroying this world. And like it gives her the, like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this thing now.
I love this. But also,
Serdian says he also might be a blue wizard. Also, I had fun with the new series. It was better than the Hobbit movies. Well, to be fair, everything is better than
the Hobbit movies. I don't know why. I still have a really soft spot in my heart for the first movie. Like it had the tone closest to the book, and I wish they would have just made it one movie and just kept that tone, because like it was such a well cast.
Yeah, I think especially the first half of the movie has a lot of that Hobbit, I'm going on an adventure feeling.
That's it. The first half of the first movie was, I was like, this is it. They just needed to make the whole thing shorter, get it all done, but keep that tone. That's all you needed, and they just fucked it up anyway. I mean, and then Sealer said, I mean, their name is literally Godmother.
Oh, it would actually be kind of interesting if that was maybe a more literal. That dwarf song was genuinely amazing. It would be interesting if it was kind of like a more literal, like they're literally the brides of a god or something like that, and or like the void or something like that. And so when they come into this world, like they're not literally, they're figuratively the wives of something that can't come into this world, but because they are like almost, they're more close to our world, they can slip in. Okay, so we have to more or less stop now.
Yes.
So, but I think this is, I mean, basically what we would do from this point is we would probably go into more of the plot. But I feel like the only thing to really figure out is some of the stuff. I feel like we need a few supporting characters from the Vorlings. Some of his unsuccessful princes should be characters that come into play. Kind of think of like mini bosses from a video game. Maybe some of them help out, maybe some of them don't. One goes to their side. Stuff with the daughters, like the stuff in the convent, would be interesting. And then we would need to just figure out what the final act would look like, because I do think there needs to be something more than just them arguing and her Fenris killing the prince. Like it needs to be a character moment of, like, the character moment of realizing the tapestry about herself to Agnes. That's so powerful, and it combines both the plot and the character really well. So you need that kind of a realization in the final act. But that's writing. You would eventually just come up with something.
Yeah. This was fun, guys.
This was very fun. We got pretty far. It was great
having you here. This was great.
It was good stuff. Yeah, I like some of these ideas so much.
Me too. It's so good. We might maybe do a second one to tighten up the plot, but we might also have to just do other rewrites, because there are so many.
Here, guys.
Really like them.
Pressure Maria to spend more of her weekends doing this, because you know, we could. Don't have to read a book for it. We could theoretically do a book and then a rewrite a week. But you know,
I have to do 2 recordings a week.
That's what I'm saying. Pressure her.
No.
Pressure her. Pressure her. No, we wouldn't do 1 rewrite every week, but I'm just saying in general.
I'm happy to do rewrites. They are great. They are fun, fantastic.
Well, if we're trying to get through all 9 Tamara books, which we may, we're gonna have to do at least 2 more rewrites to make up for the time. So that would kind of make sense. Yeah, say which ones in the comments you would like. I know Akatar from Nesta's point of view has gotten some interest. Little Thieves could also probably get some interest. And yeah, we love you, our parasocial darlings.
Bye.